The Cloverfield Paradox is the straight-to-Netflix Cloverfield spin-off movie that we, of course, were all so eager to watch and were anticipating. And it just came out right after the Super Bowl, and it's shit. It's shit. It's not, it's not complete shit. I would describe this movie as a piece of shit that has bits of clean corn in it. Some clean, redeemable bits of corn in the piece of shit. Now, I'm going to be quite honest here. I actually kind of was pumped up for this film just because it did come out of nowhere. I didn't even really hear about this movie at all. And I actually really liked the other spinoff, 10 Cloverfield Lane. I thought I was going to hate that movie. And it was actually surprisingly amazing. I thought it was a very well done movie, well directed, well written movie, well acted. And, I was hoping that I would get at least something worthy since the previous one actually wasn't that bad. So, I kind of didn't hear any outside opinion before going into this movie at all. I just kind of shut everything away and just went straight into it because I feel like that's just the best way for me to give you the most organic review. So, yeah, this movie is just bad. It's awful. Again, not completely awful. I've seen, movies worse than this, but it's just not good. Especially comparing it to 10 Cloverfield Lane and Cloverfield, it's just not good. And a lot of it has to do with, honestly, everything. I was going to pick out just one aspect, but when I think about it, kind of every aspect fails a little bit. Let's just start with the screenwriting. The screenplay, in my opinion, is not well written. And really one of the biggest issues I have with the way this movie's written is just it's incredibly expositional and spoon-fed. There's tons of things in this movie that are just blatantly spoon-fed to you. It just didn't even try to visually convey any of that. And that's kind of a bummer because 10 Cloverfield Lane, like the way that 10 Cloverfield Lane opened and established itself, was the complete opposite of the way that the Cloverfield Paradox chose to establish itself. The first, I believe, 4 or 5 minutes of the film of 10 Cloverfield Lane, there is no word spoken. It just visually conveys to you, what's happening here. You just kind of have to infer through what it's showing you exactly what is happening here. But with the Cloverfield Paradox, it's just two characters sitting in a car, literally just talking to each other about what's happening, where they're at, what the current crisis is, what the character's plans are for the next few days, about her job description, and it's just like all this stuff is just being like spoon-fed to me, like out of no, just right out of the gate, just like here you go, here's a whole bunch of information, enjoy it, and it's just like, why? I want some direction. I want something clever here. I want something to be visually conveyed. And that's kind of the problem. Nothing in this movie is visually conveyed to you like that. Most of everything that you learn in this film is just something that somebody said. And you're like, oh, okay. All right. I guess that makes sense. But that's kind of another issue, is that this film doesn't really make much sense. It's kind of wacky and all over the place. And it kind of uses the gimmick of being in an alternate dimension to kind of explore that silliness. But at the same time, like I said, I feel like they just use that concept to kind of just do whatever they want and have nothing really make much sense. It's just a screenplay that doesn't really make much sense. It has a lot of crazy shit going on. They're just like, okay, let's just put it in an alternate dimension so that way insane shit can happen and not really have to explain any of it properly. Very predictable. That's another thing about the screenplay and just about the movie in general. Pretty much, I was able to predict like 95% of the movie. Everything that they try to trick you with, it doesn't work. You see it coming from a mile away. And, that's also upsetting with a film that's trying to be suspenseful, that's trying to be mysterious, just didn't really work out very well. And also, the way they did try to link it to Cloverfield, which, by the way, there really isn't much. Like, as you're watching this movie, you're like, how is this really related to Cloverfield? Obviously, they just used the name Cloverfield to get people to watch it. This is kind of another one of those things where they probably just wrote a screenplay and they just slapped Cloverfield on it. That way people would watch it. Granted, there is at least like 2 or 3 moments that are just kind of holy shit. Like, I really didn't see coming. And that's kind of what I'm saying with the clean corn, is that there was at least 2 or 3 scenes in this movie, or 2 or 3 sequences where I was actually somewhat immersed into it, just because there was a lot of like insane graphic stuff going on. And I'm not gonna spoil it or anything, but there's actually a few scenes that are really graphic and are kind of like practically impressive. Only one of them, the rest of it was just kind of really honestly bad CGI. But there was one scene in particular that it was honestly the first holy shit moment in the movie that I thought was honestly all right. I guess I actually found myself engaged in that part. I think I felt it worked for that moment. All the other holy shit moments are still kind of cool, but most of it's just really over the top CGI. And you're just like, holy shit, all right, that happened, I guess. But there's also a few moments in this movie where I can tell that they tried, with some character depth. They tried to actually convey a character arc. Not saying it really landed or it worked very well, but at least there was an attempt to give some depth to our main character and other characters as well. Daniel Bruhl's character in this movie, I would say he was probably the most impressive acting standout in this film. His character was, I'm trying to find a good character in this film, but there really isn't very many likable characters in this. But I would say if I had to pick one, Daniel Bruhl was fine. There was a character in this film, I don't remember his name, I don't even know the actor, I'll probably show a picture of it right here, but this guy right here, he was supposed to be the comic relief for this movie, and a lot of the time it just felt really forced and corny and flat and annoying. There was a few times where I laughed, I'm not gonna lie, but most of the time it was just kind of like, ugh, like, who wrote that line? Who wrote that? That's awful. And the direction of this film, it's not very good. It's hard to really describe what I mean without spoiling it, but what I'll say is that something really traumatic happens to a character, and their response to it is just like the most unnatural, weirdest, awful direction that I've really seen. Like, it just, I don't know, maybe the screenplay says that he was supposed to react that way, but honestly, if I was the director and I saw that was in the screenplay, I'm saying, no, screw that, I'm not doing that. That's a horrible reaction. And it's not just this scene in particular, there's other scenes where I think some of the reactions are just like, huh? And some of it's really dumb too. There's a lot of really dumb decisions where you're just like, why are they taking so long to figure that out? And I don't know, it's just, again, the film directing isn't very good, the screenwriting isn't very good. Some of the acting is alright, but also some of the acting ain't very good either. This film is just kind of all over the place. There's nothing really for you to latch onto. A lot of it's spoon-fed. I can't even think of a single character that I really gave a shit about. Maybe Daniel Bruhl's character, but again, that's me kind of being nice. Okay, let me just talk about the ending. The ending was honestly pretty horrible. Awful ending. It's very neat, predictable, wrapped up in a bow tie, just given to you like a present. And it's just kind of the cliche, like, movie ending moment. Really dumb. And it even ends super retarded. Like, it just ends just like, it's almost insulting the way it ends. So yeah, the screenplay is just honestly pretty lazy and horrible. Most of the dialogue in this movie is just like expositional, or some sort of like minor attempt at character, or some sort of minor attempt for a plot twist that you see coming a mile away. It's just not a very good movie. If you already own Netflix and you already have it, go for it. Like I said, there's some bits of clean corn in this shit movie. You'll get some, probably some worthwhile moments if you already own Netflix. I wouldn't say that this movie is worth going out of your way to create a fake account and to get a free month of Netflix, because that takes like 30 minutes, and that's probably too much time out of your way. I'm going to give the Cloverfield Paradox a 4 out of 10. So yeah, this attempted installment in the Cloverfield franchise, I guess, if you want to call it that, it's honestly incredibly incomparable to 10 Cloverfield Lane and the Cloverfield. Those two movies are, in my opinion, pretty great movies. But anyway, thank you so much for checking out this video and hearing what I had to say about the Cloverfield Paradox. If you really liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the Misfit Pawn channel to be updated on more film-related content. The Cloverfield Paradox? The Cloverfield Paradox. The Cloverfield Paradox. It's a shitty ass movie. I'm Batman.